3 hours, 37 minutes and 51 seconds is how long it took to arrange this pile of parts. But this is much more than just a pile of parts. These are the components of one of the most iconic engines Mercedes-Benz has ever built, the 6-liter V12 named the M120 from a 1992 Mercedes-Benz S600. And in this episode we're going to rebuild it start to finish, starting with the engine block. Let's see how this bottom end has held up after 250,000 kilometers. Let's see what we have. Here's our first bearing, not too bad. And here's what we got. Skirts are pretty nice. Rings are moving freely. Very little carbon deposits. So what do the rod bearings look like after 250,000 kilometers? Pretty damn good actually. These would have lasted quite a long time, but at least now we had a peace of mind knowing they would be brand new. Now inspecting our pistons, you can see some minor vertical marks. This is to be expected and it's nothing serious. These are completely reusable. The rings all move nice and free. Absolutely minimal amount of carbon buildup. And the rod journals on the crankshaft, basically flawless. What more could I really ask for? Well, there is one more thing. Before removing the crankshaft and the main bearings, I did some homework and there's a problem. The standard bearings come in 3 different flavors based on their measurements: yellow, red and blue, which I don't have. Yellow is no longer available, which kind of puts me in a tough spot because I would like to check them for the peace of mind, but I also don't want to reuse the same bearings. It's not a great idea. All things considered, how the rod bearings look like, how clean the engine is on the inside. I think what makes the most sense is keep these main bearings and not disassemble anything, as the chances of finding any significant wear are almost non-existent. I want to get the pistons squeaky clean in the ultrasonic cleaner, and to do that correctly I need to fully disassemble the piston and rod assembly. And now removing the piston rings. Since we have an Alusil engine block, we can't hold the cylinders. At least no one in Europe can do that correctly as far as I know, which means we will have to clean and reuse the old piston rings. Now measuring the ring cap. I went ahead and measured all the rings in their cylinders, and we are consistently on the higher end of spec, which is about to be expected as there is some wear on the rings. but we should be completely fine with these caps that we have. And with that, we are all set for reassembly. Now everything here has to go back exactly how it came apart. New circlip, very important. Now the cap has to be facing 12 or 6 o'clock. Make sure it's seated all the way in the groove. And the caps 120 degrees apart from each other. And all 12 are back together. Everything went smoothly. Let's reinstall them. As for the bearings, I got my hands on these new old stock Lyco bearings from 1998. When it comes to the piston orientation, the side with these markings points towards the front of the engine. And our clearance is 0.038, or a bit tighter in a few spots, well within spec. If these bolts haven't been stretched over 52.9 millimeters, they can be reused. And the final tightening. Now the rods and the caps are asymmetrical. They have to be kind of angled towards the center of the journal. I think you could install them the wrong way. But of course you have to keep this in mind when you're installing a rod onto the piston. And now 10 more pistons to install. And that is the rotating assembly all complete. Everything went nice and smooth. To finish up the short block, I'm installing the rear plate with the rear main seal. Grab your Ford Mustang AC compressor clutch plate. Now I spotted some light pitting on the rear cover here, so I'm going to use a very thin coat of some Loctite sealant on those spots. Gotta be careful with the lip of the seal here. You can get a good look at the seal from the other side. As you can see, it's sitting correctly. Going in next are the engine oil pump, the windage tray, chain and this reinforcement plate. It's a good idea to replace this rubber grommet for the oil pickup too. Next up, the cylinder heads. So these heads were refurbished, new valve stem seals, valves and the valve seats have been cut, so they should be sealing perfectly. Before installing them and the head gaskets, I need to clean the deck surfaces as well as possible. Now the head bolts and the washers. I can reuse these bolts as they are still within the spec. Before installing the other head, I want to finish up the middle of the engine as it's about to get pretty damn tight in there. We have the knock sensors and the crankcase ventilation piping. I already put cylinder number 1 at top dead center, the timing position. It is lifter installation time. These are the originals in great condition, so they'll be going right back in. And with that, we are ready to install the camshafts. So these are the original camshafts in great condition overall. I'm going to clean up the lobes, the journals, lube them up and get them installed. Now there is an installation position for the cams. The third set of lobes from the front has to be pushing down on the lifters. Now I'm tightening them down evenly. And there we go. Alright, let's see if it will rotate into the timing position. I need to line this hole up with this edge right here. There we go. Now the process for tightening this one down is actually different because you want your second set of lobes to be pushing down on the valves. On this side, the install position is basically the same as timing position itself. Now installing this sprocket. 3 new bolts, reasonably priced at 25 euros. Only going hand tight for now. To precisely set the timing, I'm using these pins that are basically modified nails to set the camshafts in place. I'm now fitting on the front cover and the harmonic damper to confirm top dead center. I'm now installing this bracket. And the crankshaft still in time. And with that, we are close to completing a big milestone for the project, the installation of all the timing gear. So everything here is new except for 2 things. This guide, which is no longer available, and the timing chain itself. So this is a double roller timing chain. They are very durable, they last forever, they don't really stretch. We already have the sprockets that are kind of worn in that we can't replace. And the tool to actually connect the new chain, because it doesn't come assembled, it was super hard to find. So I think it makes the most sense to reuse it. Need to apply sealant to the back of this guide. I'm setting it in loosely for now. Now with the chain in place, it's time to tighten this one down. Next to go on is a front timing cover, as the chain tensioner lives in here. We have some seals to install, some brackets. Let's get to it. Now some of these bolts here go through the water pump, so to clamp this down you're going to need to borrow some bolts. Now the chain is under tension. I'm holding the cam with my wrench here. Now with the pins removed, we can rotate this guy around, and I hope it doesn't explode. All the pins still line up, and the crankshaft still in position. Nice. And that is the engine fully timed, checked, and front cover installed. If you remember what the front of this engine used to look like, it has really come a long way. We are about ready to close up the front of the engine with these upper covers right here. Couple seals to install, and this guy is actually back in production, which is nice. Did you spot the flaw? The seal fell out and got pinched. Imagine if I didn't notice that. As I'm waiting for a new seal, I'm getting the other side installed. Finally, installing this guy, the new aluminium washer. I'm using grease to hold in the new seal, reapplied the sealant, ready for round 2. This side is a lot easier because you don't have the pin for the timing chain guide pushing the cover down. Let's install the camshaft adjuster magnets. Time for the first valve cover to go on, freshly powder coated, new seals and gaskets. You need sealant in these corners or else it will leak. Oil cap with a new seal. It is time for some spark, so let's install a fresh set of plugs. The time has come for the upper oil pan. Quite a bit of different hardware here to keep track of, but it's all actually pretty simple. Brand new oil level sensor. Tuck this in here. Now plugging in the oil level sensor connection. Now it's time to install the little guy. This had some nicks in it, so I had it sandblasted and I repainted it. And now comes the $10 question. Can I even turn this back around? Now this engine is getting pretty damn heavy. Now I'm going to prepare it for setting it back on the front subframe. On the rear of the engine we have these coolant pipes doubling as engine lifting hooks. Let's get them assembled. Next on the list is the oil filter housing. This was one of the dirtiest parts that I removed from the engine, looking much better now. The oil pressure sensor. New oil filter from Mercedes. I think all the other ones are made in China at this point. Now I'm not tightening it down because later I want to remove it and pre-fill the housing. Next to go on are the engine oil cooler lines. These are freshly refurbished. I need to install new O-rings. Now installing one of the transmission cooler lines, the original rubber mounting points were completely falling apart, so I replaced them. And one of the last things to go on before I install the engine onto the subframe is brand new Tenso AC compressor. The compressor comes pre-filled with the right amount of oil, so you can install it right away. It already comes with new O-rings, but I guess these were already compressed, so I'm going to swap them out regardless. I paid 30 euros for these. I'm not going to not use them. Loop them up, fresh AC oil. Nice. We are almost ready to set the engine onto the subframe. The last part's going on, the engine mounting brackets. Before setting the engine onto the subframe, there is one thing I need to revisit. Now the rear bushings, for being 33 years old, they are surprisingly nice. The front ones, not so much. The originals are no longer available, and in fact no rubber replacements for these are actually in production. If you need to replace them, which you probably do, as these cars are getting old, the only option is to go with polyurethane bushings. I got these from Strongflex from Poland. People have had good experiences with these and they gave me a nice discount, so if you need these, I'll leave a link down below. My custom made special tool. Nice. Now I know what you're thinking. Bright red rubber bushings in the suspension of my S-Class, not very fitting. And I agree, which is why I went ahead and painted the outside surfaces black. So I used plastic primer and the highest quality spray paint I could find. Is this going to be a long-lasting quality paint job? Probably not, but I at least had to give it a shot. we are ready for liftoff. And we have the final touchdown. Right, beautiful. Now installing the belt tensioner, the original old tensioner, as it's no longer in production. And the freshly rebuilt power steering pump. Next up, I'm installing the top dead center sensors. Set this here for now. Now starting on the other side, I'm installing the bracket for the secondary air pump and alternator. Hello from the future. I forgot to tighten these down. I'm only tightening this slightly as we have no secondary air pump in between, and because we're deleting it, we need to install these block-off plates into the cylinder heads. I have to say it's looking very empty on this side of the engine without the secondary air pump. I'm kind of wishing I had rebuilt the system, but the decision has been made. Next on the list is the harmonic damper. This is a new old stock part, so it's never been installed, never been used. Very happy I was able to get my hands on this one of the last still left in the world probably. And of course don't forget about the 4 crank bolt washers. Another custom-made special tool. Now the repair manual that I have has torque spec for every single engine except this one, but it's always around 300-400 Newton meters. The spec for the M119, this is the M120, is 200 Newton meters plus 90 degrees, and it's same thread bolt, so that's what I'm going with. There we go. And flex plate bolts as well. For the remaining 3 I'm doing the 90 degrees with the impact. And that is the crankshaft and the flex plate torqued down nicely. The time has come for the water pump. This is a brand new Magneti Morelli unit. Let's get it installed. See how this doesn't line up. Might not be the best quality. Coming in close behind is the coolant manifold, many seals here to install, and 4 separate coolant temperature sensors. The repair manual states to just screw these on, so don't go too crazy, I guess. The last item for the cooling system is the thermostat, the old thermostat, because this guy is no longer available from anywhere. Nine Newton meters. I'm gonna go with 10, just don't tell anyone. The ignition distribution system. We have new caps, new rotors from Bosch. This rotor arm did not survive the teardown, so it's brand new as well. .5 Newton meters. Just had my hands calibrated last week. And lastly, all the ignition cables. These are the originals in working condition. I tested all of them. We are almost ready for the intake manifold. These manifold adapter plates will go on first. Now, one thing I wanted to revisit is the fuel injectors. I went ahead and had them cleaned and tested. and they are all in great shape. I'm also going to replace the filter baskets for the injectors. There we go. Now to repeat that 11 more times. Going on next are all the clips that hold on the injectors. With the top of the engine finished up, let's do the same for the sides by installing the exhaust manifolds. I actually cleaned these in the ultrasonic cleaner, believe it or not, just to get them squeaky clean on the inside. Up next we also have the EGR valves and the piping. In the last episode I took these valves apart, cleaned them thoroughly. They're good as new inside. They look identical, but they are actually numbered 1 and 2 for the two banks. I wonder what's different about them. It is also dipstick time. I installed new O-rings. Almost forgot about these plastic shrouds for the distributor cap. You have to install these together. Coming up next is the power steering reservoir with a pair of brand new hoses from Mercedes. Okay, let's see how this is going to go down. There we go. And clip it back in. Alright, let's finish up the rear of the engine. We have the crankshaft position sensors to install. New ones are only available from China, so I'm going to reuse the originals. We also have the crack case ventilation piping. I think it's about time to install all the pulleys. I'm going to go with 35, but I'm warning you that it's just a speculation. It is time to install the belt. It's a bit shorter than the stock, as you would expect with the secondary air pump being gone. Now the fan clutch, ideally I would like to replace it, but a brand new one from Mercedes is about 1.2 million euros, and the original is actually not even leaking. So I'll be putting this back in. I'm using some medium thread locker on all the screws. You don't want this coming loose, especially with the thick powder coating. And that was the last part, the last piece. It is all back together, it is finished. Well, except for maybe a few plastic clips that I will have to get 3D printed as they're not available. If you're wondering why this episode took so long to come out, it's because I obviously changed my mind with tearing into the bottom end. The rod bearings took about 2 weeks to arrive from the US, then they arrived damaged, the package was damaged, several of them were damaged. So it took 2 weeks for a replacement set to arrive, and I started putting the engine back together like 2 weeks ago at this point. The next episode is going to be all about the transmission and the steering gearbox. There's quite a bit to do there. They can't just go back together as they are. Definitely not the case. Had a lot of fun rebuilding this one. Hopefully it was at least as fun to watch as well. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching.